Thank you very much for putting this very interesting event together, and my apologies for not being able to be there in person. As I explained, there have been cancellations due to a general strike in Belgium, and so I had to reschedule my whole traveling week. I'm very pleased to present Solaris project. You have there in the room many of the colleagues, and I hope I will be able to make justice to the enthusiasm and the richness of the research that we have been carrying out in the past 2.5 years, even a bit more. Solaris is this, it's a fancy name for a very complicated title that I promised I would never try to remember until the end of the project, the Strengthening Democratic Engagement through Value-Based Generative Adversarial Networks. And perhaps the first thing to note is that although when we wrote the proposal, we were focusing on guns. By the time we started, there was way more than just guns to look at, and generative AI systems have been so pervasive in generating audiovisual contents that pose challenges for democratic processes. And in Solaris, we have been interested in looking at how these technical artifacts, these AI-generated contexts, may have good or less good consequences for democracy. Our consortium covers very many countries in Europe, and is truly interdisciplinary and also involving partners from outside academia. We span the humanities but also technical subjects such as computer science. We also have partners in international relations and law, in citizen science, and also journalism and media, and all this couched into philosophy and ethics of technology and semiotics and media studies. This has creating an important fertile terrain to look at this phenomenon from multiple perspectives. We have the three objectives, and I speak in the past because clearly now we are wrapping up, so we are concluding. First of all, understanding the technical and sociopolitical potential of generative AI, especially related to audiovisual contents spread on social media. Second, to co-create options and regulatory innovations for the risks that are related to these artifacts. And thirdly, to co-design value-based AI-generated outputs to enhance digital citizenship and democracy. We are now in the very final phase in which we are wrapping up a book and a deliverable in which we present our main findings for a policy recommendation. But I was interested in giving you a bit of the story of what we have been doing in this period. When we started working on the project, we compiled a long spreadsheet of items, examples of deepfakes circulating on social media. You don't need to read in detail the table. This is just to show that we try to create several categories, including when it was shared, what kind of content it was, whether there was authorization or not for the sharing, whether there was disclosure of using generative AI, what kind of function this had, and so on and so forth. So this list was pretty long, and it became pretty clear and pretty soon that deepfakes are not all alike, and so we could not treat them as just one big thing and undifferentiated. And also, it seemed to us that a lot of attention was posed just on the technical artifacts per se, and especially on its quality. Or the narrative was, we have to worry about democracy moment in which these deepfakes will be so good that we cannot distinguish them from real videos. And we immediately understood that that was not the right approach, and that's why our theoretical approach was based and couched into actor network theory. And the idea was to look at the broader network in which AI-generated audiovisual content not only circulates, but in the first place is generated, developed, and then also how is this related to policy and legislative intervention, the user reception, the public discourse, or to put it in very simple terms, we really have to look at the broad pictures and not just at the videos that are being circulated online. Based on this theoretical approach, our three use cases looked at different aspects of the network. The first use case tried to answer the question, how do people get to trust AI-generated content? And we developed a psychometric scale for perceived trustworthiness of this content. So here, the focus is really on the user and on the lay people, especially with no specific expertise to look into this content. And what we found out, but the colleagues in the room have run the study so they can add way more details, is that simply put, people trust way too much and we swallow way too much than we should. The second use case has looked instead at another segment of the network, namely the policy and legislative intervention, but also with the online circulation. We have run two activities with stakeholders from media and journalism in which we simulated the spreading of this deepfake. The simulation, in fact, entailed us preparing a number of videos that we generated and then discussing with experts and journalists about how they would look at them, what would happen if these videos were injected into the pipeline of a major press agency, and what mitigation measures would be in place. We have learned a lot from this activity also because it created a very interesting contrast with the findings of use case one. I say a contrast not because they were in conflict, but because clearly the expertise of the user or of the person looking at the videos matters a lot in terms of detecting the deep fakes. So this, as we will develop further in this final phase, this can be a really important element for developing literacy programs and more generally policy recommendations. Our third use case was also focusing on online circulation, but more on the side of the public discourse. And the question here was, is there any AI for good that we can use in generating audiovisual content with these systems? And this seemed to us a very important question to ask, because to counterbalance the fear and the potential harm created by this. Again, you have in the room the experts that have run this use case, and the quick answer is that yes, there could be a lot of good content that is generated, but we really need to understand deeply how we can use these tools to generate these videos in a way that is conducive to the good intentions and good goals. Finally, it seemed to us that this reflection on AI-generated contents and how it spreads on social media is fundamental also for having a discourse on how to empower digital citizenship and education. While it is fundamental and vital that we have regulation in place, we would also like to emphasize that self-awareness, caution, and proactiveness are important kind of skills that every one of us has to learn. And with this, I have concluded. Thank you, Tanya, for the opportunity to present, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the meeting.